We might have a lane swap.
Lane swap.
Lane swap.
Lane swap.
Lane swap.
There is still ways that you can lane swap.
Welcome to the Lane Swap. I'm Chris Okamura. Joining me today is Kristine Hutter. Kristine, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. It's just another evening in the neighborhood. How's it going with you?
Not bad, not bad. It's a little cold in LA. We're getting the winters going.
We've got about a 10-degree temperature right now, so
Good old Canada.
good old Canada.
So what we do have around the world is a free agent frenzy for League of Legends.
Snap.
Things have been going wild. People signing everywhere. A lot of moves we didn't expect. Craziness all
Korea
over
is
the place.
infiltrating everywhere again.
True, which is true for every offseason. So, Kristine, to jump into it, what do you think is the most important offseason move so far?
So I'm going to go for the obvious one.
Okay.
I'm going to say the obvious one is Jensen's situation.
Okay. Why?
So the reason that I say this, and I'm a little bit torn on this, I'll be honest, but this is my decision. I think that the fact that he went from being a bench player essentially, like that's essentially what he was when he went to Academy, to joining Team Liquid is going to open up some pretty crazy options for Team Liquid in the sense that like Team Liquid has a very, very strong bot lane right now. We've got Core JJ and we've got Double Lift. You can't really argue with that. And then you've got Impact in top lane. He is a solid player. He's not going to win you the game. He's not going to lose you the game. But he might actually be the one to make the plays too. Like he's got that potential. Like Smithy is there. He's not going to win you the game. He's not going to lose you the game. But he tries. He puts in a good effort. And then there's Jensen.
Sure.
Jensen doesn't have the best track record right now. He's opinion.
Up and down.
He's very up and down. He's hot and he's cold. He's yes and he's no.
True.
He was in Cloud9 and then he was out. Now he's up in Team Liquid's business. And he has the opportunity to have a very strong pairing and synergy with their jungler through Xmithy if he plays his cards right. Now, I don't know him personally. I don't know what his comms are like. I don't know if they'll be exactly what Team Liquid needs. But I kind of have a feeling that he's going to need to find his voice all over again.
Sure.
Because there are such strong personalities and players on that team. If he's able to find his voice, I think that he could actually be a very viable mid laner in NA on Team Liquid. But if he can't do that, then he's going to fall apart again, just like he did on Cloud9.
Sure. And I think the only hole I would kind of poke in that argument is how does Jensen fare when he's not the main option, when he's not the number one carry on the team? Because when he was with Cloud9, whatever jungler they had, whether it was Meteos or Contracts, whatever jungler they used was really just a mid gank bot for Jensen. And whenever they shifted away from that, like whenever they played towards Sneaky, Jensen really kind of struggled.
I think that is a very valid point, but I almost think that furthers the argument that it is an important off-season move. Because with Team Liquid, it's a big
risk, right?
Yeah, you've got that risk. And they've got such a good core in their bot lane that
they have a core JJ down there.
They've got a core JJ, exactly. So throwing Jensen into the mix is like rolling the dice and really hoping they land in your favor.
Sure.
And let's hope they don't land on Snake Eyes for Team Liquid this season.
Fair enough. I kind of went the other way with it because that's a big risk. That's a very, very much a could pay off, could not kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. I went with the surefire big move, which is just everything SKT has done.
Yeah.
Literally everything. They gave Faker, of course, signed back with SKT, and they gave that on its own could just be the move of the year, right? It was just like, hey, you re-signed the best player in the world, right? But now you give him what he's never had before, which is players that can mechanically stand up with him, right?
Yeah.
Before, the only player that he really had was Marin in terms of just mechanical skill that could keep up with Faker. But I mean, now you give him Khan, you give him a player like Teddy, you give him, Haru and Klid in the jungle. like there's so many options that they have now as a team. Not to mention Mata, who again, it's something else Faker's never had, of just someone that can control tempo and vision the way that Mata can. You basically gave Mata an assortment of weapons that he can go ahead and monitor and control.
Would
And
you say they gave him an armada?
Yes. I can respect that. But yeah, I mean, they gave him the tools and the weapons, and when Mata's been most successful, it has been when he's had those mechanical players that he can go ahead and command and sort of operate around with how intelligent of a player he is and how well he controls tempo.
So here's my question to you then, since we're focusing so heavily on support in the last little section.
Sure.
How do you feel if Effort was to stick around on the team? How do you feel he would play into or like the entire mix, I guess?
I think they would lose a lot in terms of overall game sense and presence. I don't necessarily think Teddy or Haru have a great game sense, and so from your jungler and your support, you can't really have that. I think Faker and Khan really focus more on playing around. They focus around playing around their individual solo lanes, and Teddy is the same way. They are very lane focused carries, where you do need that kind of presence looking over and lording over the rest of the map and helping control tempo and helping the game flow into the direction that you want it to flow into. I don't think Effort has the experience to go ahead and make that happen. I think Mata can help teach him that, so that, you know, if Mata leaves down the line or if he gets swapped out during the middle of the split or something happens with Mata, I think he has that mindset to be able to teach and maybe mentor Effort in that same way. I think the more critical thing is that now they have Zephyr as well. So Zephyr signed as I think, assistant coach with SKT. It wasn't really clear. He just was joining the coaching staff. I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, I would assume Como would still be the main coach.
To the best of my knowledge, he is, yes.
Yeah, so it would be Zephyr's just main focus on, you know, look what he did when he was with Afrika, right? Like, it's all pre-planning, understanding your opponent, understanding what picks we're going to go for. He's a master of pick ban, and then you go ahead and take that over, and he's also very good at understanding map movements, rotations, things like that, right? And so that's why Afrika was always prepared to play, and I love the idea of him coming into SKT and bringing that with him as well, to help, again, these mechanical players that are so far and above the rest of the world in terms of just mechanical skill as a roster.
Absolutely. And I think that that's actually a very important point. This comes as no surprise to anybody in the League of Legends community, I feel. Mechanically, Korea is just ahead of the game. So for SKT to finally have a composition... Sorry, what?
Oh, I was going to say, like, I think LPL is right there with them. I think that there's just there is a clear divide of, like, this player, like the top end Korean players. So when you're talking about like BDD, Smeb, Khan, Keen, like you're talking about the top echelon level guys, I think there is a clear divide.
Yeah. But I think what's worth noting is that it seems like everybody on SKT's lineup right now is pretty darn strong mechanically. And it's not just like what it used to be, where everybody was like on the cusp of being like a true great. Like, they have the potential with the synergy they've built, presumably, to hone that mechanical play even further than they have in the past. Because I think that an underappreciated factor towards mechanical play is actually how you work as a team. Because if you can't work well as a team, then how can you focus on your mechanics? The fact that Korea now might have a team that's got both in perfect harmony is terrifying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, like you said, it's not like they are, you know, it's not like we're relying on like just Korean dominance at this point. Like, no, they are top 10 maybe in the world each at in their own position for mechanic, in terms of pure mechanics. It's terrifying. And like, if I've been watching a couple of their solo queue highlights because they have been playing together as a roster, and it's terrifying to see them kind of pull off these plays that no one else can pull off.
I'm sure. I mean, I've been watching some of the North American scrims, and I can't say that. Well, I shouldn't say scrims. I should say in houses. I can't say that I'm overly impressed at this point. Not that too many teams are showing many cards at like this point in time, but it's very subpar when you look at the other regions. And
Sure.
I'm really hoping that that changes, considering like the roster overhauls have been pretty darn vast so far.
Right.
But I don't think anything's going to compare to SKT, at least in North America.
So actually, now going back to your original point about Jensen being the most important person to be picked up over this offseason. I
Yes.
actually have Core JJ as my most underrated pickup. Because I think
Interesting.
I've heard, and like I brought this up to you earlier, and you thought that this was not an underrated pickup. But to me, a
don't
lot of
think
people
so.
are talking about Jensen and kind of jumping over the idea of Core JJ, right? Or it was sort of the afterthought of like, oh, they got Core JJ and Jensen, and I think the NA mindset is just like Jensen's a top tier mid, and everyone likes Jensen, and that's a bigger name, obviously. But I think for replacing Ole, which is a more team oriented support and a roaming support, with a lane focused, aggressive player like JJ, and giving that to Doublelift, who again is also an aggressive lane focused player, and with how much Team Liquid plays through Doublelift in the bot lane, I think that's going to be huge.
I think so too. I suppose in a way we've got the luxury of having blinders on as far as it comes to social media, because we see
Right.
predominantly what North America and Europe are talking about. I saw enough about JJ that I didn't think that he was the most underrated pickup of the season thus far, just because I saw people talking about him. But I do agree that they did hyper focus in on Jensen, and I think that that is a misplay if that's where pros are focusing as well, although I don't think they would be. I think that your analysis is pretty spot on as far as his playstyle goes and how he'll interact with Doublelift. I have a feeling that other regions haven't overlooked him or considered him underrated the way that North America and potentially Europe have as well.
Oh no, absolutely. I don't think from a professional standpoint, I don't think anyone in LCS or anyone else is really not is saying that Core JJ is not going to be important or doesn't realize his importance. But I think from a fan perspective, I think the conversation around the pickup so far, JJ has been very underlooked. Or
I think
overlooked.
he's just not well known, is really what it comes down to. Like you said, Jensen is a staple name in North America at this point, so a lot of people will flock to a name like that because they can rally around it.
Right.
JJ has yet to make a strong name for himself, or at least a brand, I guess you could say.
Sure.
So I think that that's a huge part of why he's not talked about as much as he is. Had Doublelift made more hype around JJ, there's a chance that this would be a completely different conversation, just because then you have a personality bringing him up. But I think until he makes the argument for himself with Doublelift, or until Team Liquid decides to focus on him to promote the change,
well, because it was
he
interesting,
will
because like
stay underrated.
Jensen got a full video introduction and like this big kind of fanfare, and then really JJ didn't really get any of that.
I don't remember JJ getting anything at all, really.
Yeah.
Other than the announcement.
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why I have him here. But I definitely think he's going to be more impactful than people realize, at least from a fan perspective.
I think that's a very fair analysis.
What do you have as a most underrated pickup for this?
I'm going to be cheeky with this one.
Oh boy!
I know. I think it's Riot's pickup of Romain.
Oh. Okay, so for people that don't know who Romain is, give me a quick TLDR.
All right, so Romain is essentially the god of fanfare, at least in my mind. He took over Europe through Unicorns of Love, and in my opinion, that's where he took off. He has like fully committed himself to every team he's been a part of, as far as like putting on mascot outfits and like just fully embracing what the crowd wants and what the crowd needs when it comes to an event. And like you even look at Rift Rivals, he had the full like EU NA chest paint going on, had like a weapon, was making people do push-ups. Like he's the real deal when it comes to a personality that happened to be behind the scenes in management for these teams. He was on OG for the last little while, but Riot swooped in, or maybe Romain swooped in, we don't know. And now he's working with Riot. But not only is he working with Riot in business development, he is one of their casters. That is something a lot of people don't know. Because the main announcement,
all in on the hype.
I'm all in on this. A lot of people just read the fact that he joined Riot as a business development team member. What they didn't look into is things like these small changes in his Twitter bio that list him as an honored talent for Riot Games now. That, I think, is going to make a huge difference because we were very, very worried about some of the talent we were losing in Europe. We had Shox leave, and who was it, Pyra?
Yeah, Pyra left.
Yeah. Those are both pretty hefty blows, and I mean, both have said that they're going to make appearances still, but it's not going to be their main focus. Hypothetically speaking, they may change their minds, we don't know, but that's what's public. Romain is in it to win it. Like, he is a strong personality. They're going to be able to use the heck out of him for skits and pieces that are like genuinely creative and engaging. And he's going to be a very interesting addition to the business development team for the LEC. What some people might also not know is that the actual hired talent for Riot is incredibly involved in their business development as it pertains to esports. They're part of the meetings. They're part of the like things that are written, the things that are planned, the things that are branded. They get a say. So to have someone like Romain, who has a good business sense as far as organizations go, to join their staff and give both insight and fan hype, that was something that the LEC sorely needed an injection of, and he's giving it to them.
No, I totally agree. You went all in on the hype.
I'm all in on the Romain hype.
NA has a romaine lettuce problem. Europe has romaine lettuce hype. Awesome. Yep. So speaking of hype, I think we both agree on this one. The most hype move that's not going to work and it's going to crash and burn, and we're all going to look back and say, "Wow, why was anyone hype about that?"
It's Crown.
It's got to be Crown, right?
It has to be.
I think everyone kind of sees this as a big move for Optic, and pretty much everything Optic is doing. Optic signed Dardoch today, a week after signing Meteos. And again, Meteos was not happy last year playing in Academy. I don't know where this is going. Maybe they'll move Dardoch to top lane in the spirit of moving people around.
As a quick aside, the rumor was that Dardoch was going to TSM. So the fact that they signed him is actually an upset in several different fashions. But anyway, Crown. Yeah,
I mean, that is also true. I think where Dardoch will land was a big question overall, especially for the NA sort of. I don't want to say lack thereof, but I will say a drought of competent junglers in NA.
I think that's a fair assessment.
But yeah, Crown just comes across as remember a couple of years ago when Crown was like the second best player in the world. Like where? So hey, stick with me on this. This is gonna be a quick rant. Stick with me.
I just had my rant. You have yours.
I still think Crown is one of the best mechanical players in the world. Okay. I do. When you watch him play, he's actually very, very strong. The problem that I get into is, remember in 2016 when he burst onto the scene, he was like a mechanical god, right? I don't think he fully realized his potential yet. And it's a sort of thing of like the fear of I don't know. It's like a kid trying to figure out his powers still. It's like when you watch superhero movies and they're still timid on like how to do stuff. And so there's like a fear of like, can I do this? Can I not? And so you'd see Crown play, and there's as mechanically skilled as he was and as gifted as he was, there was a little bit of a hindrance of, hey, maybe can I do this or can't I? And it was that fear that kind of kept him in check. Now I think he's had the full confidence boost, and he understands that he's really, really good. And so now he goes out there and he's like, I can do that. I can jump off that building and be fine. And then he just does things because he thinks he can do them, and he's confident in his abilities, but he can't. And it's plays like that where he's like, I can 1v3 these guys, don't worry about it. It's like, no, Crown, you can't. It's like, yeah, I am. I'm real good. And then he goes in there, he dies. It's like, well, I guess I messed up that one. That's on me. Let me try to do it again. And it's that overconfidence that kind of has hindered it's the lack of fear that has hindered his performances over the years.
I think that's fair. What I'm curious, there's two main things that I'm curious about with this pickup. The first is language barriers. Now, right now, please correct me if I'm wrong, we don't actually know who their main bot laner is going to be.
No, I would assume it'd be Arrow again.
You think he'll be re-signed?
I would assume so. I don't know who else you would get, to be fair.
That's the question mark for me. Because I feel like being able to rely on one carry or the other is incredibly important, and being able to communicate between carries is incredibly important, and something that's often overlooked. Right now, like, Crown may very well communicate in English with the rest of his teammates flawlessly. He could have a perfect run, but it hasn't been tested, so we have no idea as people spectating the situation. The other thing I wonder is if Optic Gaming is just going to be another training montage for him. Because like you said, he likes to take big risks, and especially with a North American team that's completely untested, high risk does not mean high reward. It means falling harder. So will his team be able to step up to his level with the roster I'm seeing right now? I don't think so.
No, but you know what would be fire? And stick with me.
Okay.
If you Dardoch on Radios, whatever one you use, we put them in there. I think both are serviceable. Could be fine, right? You have Crown in the mid lane. You re-sign Arrow, and then you get Flame in the top lane. Now all three of your carry threats are Korean, and then Dardoch or Medios just have to figure it out.
The hangers on.
Yeah, you got to figure it out. Or if you move Medios to support, and then you have them you just have them dual jungle.
I'm trying to riddle out. Bear with me. I have a radical idea. I got a radical idea for you. Medios crashing down in bot lane.
As an AD carry?
He's the new AD carry. He's pulling the perks.
Speaking of perks. I have G2 as the most interesting and intriguing moves of my offseason.
I just think it's a dumpster fire.
you don't see this as interesting. You're not gonna watch G2 for the first couple weeks, just like watching and waiting to see how this turns out.
I think this is the thing. I think it'll actually turn out pretty decently for them. But with all of the drama that surrounded it,
I don't think for the same reasons. But keep going.
Okay, so there's two factors again for my train of thought in all of this. First thing is you've got two very strong personalities now competing as carries on the same team. I think that Caps has the ability to work with perks, so that might not be an issue, but it's always something to keep an eye on. The other thing is there has been a ton of negativity and drama surrounding this change. Now, whether or not that will actually phase the team and phase the players, I'm not sure. But with this possible lawsuit, and for those of you who don't know, apparently organizations and players within the LEC are planning on coming forward to essentially sue G2 and Perks for poaching. And this dates back to 2016. So the negativity surrounding the Caps switch over to G2 is essentially the notion that Perks poached him, and Fnatic kind of messed with this one a little bit by tweeting out what they did. And I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something like, I don't even know. Do you remember what the tweet was?
I forget, but it is a very strange situation.
It's a very strange situation that has a lot of negativity. I'm hoping that G2 does not let it get to them. I'm hoping that they're able to work past the negativity of the majority to impress the minority that already is behind them. But regardless of how well they play, this move is a dumpster fire.
I think it'll pay off domestically, right? Because I don't feel like bot lanes in Europe are particularly strong. I think Caps is with Perks moved now to AD carry, I don't think there's a mid laner that could stand up and sort of challenge or even kind of pose threat to Caps in the mid lane. So I think they can really carry through that and give Perks the ability to learn and transition to bot lane pretty effectively. The challenge they're going to have is internationally. Perks is not going to be able, like, I think Caps obviously showed at Worlds that he can stand up to other world caliber mids. I don't think that Perks is going to be able to make that transition in a year. And I think G2 is at a point in their organization where they are not content with just winning Europe anymore, right? Like, I don't think that is their goal. I don't think I think going far and making it far in Worlds, especially with what Fnatic did this year, I think that the goal in mind for a team at G2's level is to do well internationally. And I don't see them, like, if this was a move to get them better internationally, I don't see that I don't see this as a plus.
But do you see this as a move that was intentionally made to, one, keep Perks happy, but also to ensure that they're going to stay on top of EU? Because I think that is like a hurdle that they already faced this last year.
Well, I think the other implication is that they got Perks out of Fnatic. I think that was the bigger move, right? Other than outside of the G2 outside of moving Perks to AD carry, like, just taking Caps away from Fnatic, that roster is complete. Like, just moving Caps off Fnatic's roster is not nearly as strong. I think Caps was a huge part of what they did. I'm curious to see how Bwipo and Reckless now work without having that huge presence in the mid lane. Like, we saw it with Faker, right, in Korea, where when you have such a problem in the mid lane, like, you have this huge carry in the mid lane, you can take a lot of risks and a lot of chances as an AD carry as a top laner. Like, I'm curious to see how Bang does in North America, right? Like, I'm curious to see, like, Piglet came over to North America and struggled a little bit at first because he wasn't used to being that number one option, right? We saw Marin go over to China and have a little bit of an issue. And so when you play with such a huge presence in the mid lane in particular, since that is probably the most key position in League of Legends now, the idea of taking away or having sort of the center of the universe being in that mid lane, it allows you as a top laner or as a side laner to play a little bit more freely without fear of constant jungle pressure. But now having taken that away, obviously Reckless has played with that before and he's used to it. I'm curious how Bwipo does, and I think he's going to do fine. Again, fine domestically. I'm curious how it works internationally when he faces other top lane gods. Like, we saw him sort of lose it against the Shy, which really you can't blame him for. But he didn't have the spectacular worlds that you would have expected looking at his EU results. As an individual, of course. Not as a team, of course, they made it to the final. But I mean, as an individual, he didn't have the carry performances that he was showing domestically.
And I see where you're coming from. I think the biggest focus for me in all of this anarchy is the bot lane. Because historically, and agree or disagree with me, please voice your opinion, Europe does not have good bot laners. They've got, or bot lane duos, I should say. They've got good bot laners, but they do not have good bot duos.
Misfits
until now.
That. Yeah, Misfits gonna change that.
Misfits gonna change that.
I think I feel that we both have Misfits as one of the rosters that we are looking at that no one else is looking at. What do you think about Misfits?
I think, oh boy, Gorilla gonna do work. I think that was one of the most underrated pickups for Europe. And again, maybe this is having North American blinders on, can't see what everybody else is talking about. But at least from my perspective, I haven't seen many people talking about Gorilla.
No.
And I think if they underestimate him, he gonna smash.
Yeah, and I think it's weird because Gorilla obviously had a down year last year, or down. I didn't think a down year, like a down summer split last year. And I think people kind of forgot that he's probably he's still a top 5 support player in the world. And I think Hans Sama, when given the opportunity, was one of the best carries in EU last year. People don't know because people weren't paying attention, but I mean, Hans Sama had a fantastic summer split. And so now you give them Soaz and Femibin as well as just sort of veterans that can stabilize the ship and wait until Hansama and Gorilla carry. You're kind of having in the same situation that you're having with Team Liquid, right? Where you're having this supportive, solid, not going to make mistakes guys, and then just hoping that your bot lane carries it through.
Yep, I think that's exactly how it's going to play out. I think that Soaz is a very good player. We know this. This is established. However, I don't think that he's going to be the shining star on this team. I think it's going to have to be up to Hansama because I don't think Febiven is honestly up to the challenge of carrying the team as a whole. So it's going to have to be Hansama, and that means that the spotlight is going to be on him and Gorilla to make this season happen for Misfits. Fnatic is really the only other team I can think of that has a strong bot lane. So to see those two teams go up against each other, I think Febiven will do okay because obviously right now Fnatic has Nemesis in the mid lane, and I'm still skeptical. I can see how it could work, but I'm skeptical of Nemesis yet. So Febiven can probably hold his own. I'm going to give him the credit for that. Soaz should be able to hold his own too. He's been playing around Bipwell for a while, so that should be a non-issue. Maxlore does Maxlore things. He won't make the game like the best game in the world, but he won't falter to the point of being the key like reason they lose. So it's going to come down to bot lane.
No, totally agree.
Yeah.
And I believe in Hansama and Gorilla. I think that bot lane is actually scary.
Mm-hmm. I think that as long as Gorilla is able to find his comfort zone with Hansama before the split starts, I think that's going to be the key. I think if they do not find their flow before the split starts, they're in a lot of trouble. But if they're able to sort of hit their stride, then they're going to be very strong contenders. And I think that that is slightly underrated, but also just not being talked about enough.
Sure. And again, I think they're gonna find that flow, and I think they're not really going to be challenged. I mean, they're again, like you said, the bot lane duos in Europe. I think Hylissang and Reckless. I think Hylissang has a lot of deficiencies that Reckless makes up for.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Upset and Ignar, I think that has the potential to be a decent bot lane, but I don't think Upset is up to the same level as Hansama. I think Sheriff and Mithy is a little overrated as a bot lane duo. And I think Hiku and Wadid is another one that's going to be solid but not great. I also have Rogue. I know you have them as well, of just a team that's no one's talking about that I think is actually a lot better than people are giving them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And I have FlyQuest and Rogue in this same camp of just teams that have built rosters of players that aren't great. So I don't know, you don't watch the NBA, but there's like right now the Clippers have the same thing where they have a roster of guys that would be the 4th or 5th best player on a team.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're not bad players. They're not great players, but they're good role players, but they're all good role players. So they all know their role. They all don't make mistakes. They all play super clean. None of them are going to win you a game in particular, but they're going to be able to just stable the ship and then rely on other teams to falter.
And I think that's the biggest thing with Europe. A lot of teams tilt. And we've seen that when the meta shifts. We see that when like any team that's at the top of the charts like loses their edge. Like they tilt, they fall down, they falter, their carries stop carrying. Rogue just has a team of people who are like, what's up?
Yeah,
like, they're chill. They're just gonna go into it with level heads, presumably. And honestly, I don't see anybody really having strong issues with tilts unless they start tilting one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like all of them are, from what I've heard about all of these players, they are all great personalities and great people.
Mm-hmm.
And so for them to all be on a team together, again, it's the same thing I feel about FlyQuest, where they're all just good dudes that are all there for the same reason. They just want to win, right? They just want to be there. They want to win. They're all veterans. They all know their roles. They know what they're doing. No moment is too big for them. And so I think when you play other teams, there's high, and especially in League of Legends, the way it's played now, having a cohesive team is going to be so important, and having the ability to sort of wait out teams to beat themselves is a huge skill to have. And I think both of those rosters have that potential, but no, they don't have the star power where people are going to talk about them.
True. Speaking of star power and people talking about things, I want to talk about branding for a minute.
Okay, what do you got? You got a hot take?
I'm gonna give my hot take, which is honestly like more of a tepid take at this point.
Okay.
LEC.
Okay.
Why?
I'm with you.
Honestly, I think that this rebrand, to like make it a punchy, individualized unit, is completely unnecessary. I think that it throws people off. I think that it sounds lackluster. And I think that like even the graphics that they used seemed so juvenile in the sense that
the graphics.
They were very simplistic to the point of being too simplistic.
Yeah,
I think that this rebrand was poorly done in the execution side of things. I think that the fact that all of their subsites and even the North American website still had EU LCS branding when the LEC was launched was a huge failing on Riot's part. And as much as I want to see the LEC succeed because EU for life, they really faltered on this one.
No, I completely agree. And the interesting thing about it is I agree with you. The main point to me that stood out was the graphics. And it was the look of what they were going for and how much that clashed with their wording and their sort of the feel that they're trying to go for. So in all the text and all of the like kind of the way they're branding it and cutting videos and the music they were using and the interviews they did, it was to make it more exciting and edgy and sort of like in your face. But they went with a super clean and minimalistic graphics, which I understand. Like it looks decent, right? Graphics like that never are going to look bad. It's just going to look lazy. But I don't know if you're aware. So NALCS last summer did some graphics stuff where it was like a graffiti style graphic work. That would have worked way better for the style and the sort of flair that they're going for with this rebrand. And with this rebrand, I don't know. Obviously, it's to distinguish themselves from NA, but I don't think there was a problem with that to begin with.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessary. And obviously, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe like even the teams themselves wanted some differentiation. Who knows? But I feel like they did not engage their audience with this rebrand. And the number of lick my balls comments I going through threads
they
really shows that.
They kind of shot themselves in the foot with that one.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, hopefully it goes well. I mean, at this point, it's an accepted thing, so it exists. Congratulations, Riot, you made something exist.
Right. I mean, and look, this isn't to shit on anyone that worked on the project, because obviously people worked hard. It came out. I think it missed the mark, but I think there is something to be said for like at least they're trying something.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think they severely missed the mark on this one. Not their best effort.
No, I'll give it a C-.
Yeah,
an LEC minus.
An LEC minus. I'm all right, so we're gonna start to wrap it up. What do you think is the most important piece that you're looking for? Because we still obviously there's a lot of holes still have to fill. What are you looking for next? What is the next big piece that you're looking for to fall?
We've talked about a few top laners today, and I think the one top laner that is strongly missing is Okamura. He has been underrated in my opinion.
Oh, we talked about this the other day, and I told you Okamura to me is the best carry or the best tank player in Europe.
And I completely agree with you. I know that we had a little whether or not someone might be able to contest that, but I don't even think that Boko or Soaz could hold a candle to his tank play. No. I think that that's what he's got on lock, and I think that in even the current meta, that's still incredibly strong. We have no idea where Okamura is going to land at this point. Could he go back to Splice? Maybe.
Splice actually just announced its roster, and no, it's Vizichachi.
Really?
Yeah, Vizichachi.
I think that was a misplay.
Yeah,
but it's probably for the best for Okamura. Because honestly, he was just not getting the TLC that he deserved on Splice. Now, the current rumor mill says that he might be going to Counter Logic. I'm still not sure about that one.
I've also heard rumors of him going to Shulka.
I have an inherent bias against Shulka, so I can't really give a firm opinion on how I feel about that rumor. But at least it's on the side of CLG. I think it would be cool to see him back with Power of Evil. But I don't know how that's gonna mesh. I really don't. And I mean, they still have Darshan, don't they?
Yes, they do.
So that rumor seems like it's just not going to happen unless they pull another Perks. But I have no idea where he's going to end up, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do.
No, absolutely, I totally agree. I think that's a big move for the West. For the Eastern side of things, to me the biggest move yet to drop is KT Rolster's AD carry. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So KT Rolster right now, from the top side of the map, I think is the strongest. They have the strongest 3-man sort of top side that I've seen in a long time with Smeb, Score, and BDD.
Mm-hmm.
I think adding BDD. I always thought BDD. There's a big conversation going on about BDD versus UCal, just because of how BDD and UCal are sort of the young up and coming players, and so I think BDD has UCal beat. I think that's a straight upgrade. I don't think you really lose anything there.
I agree.
I think Snowflower is an interesting pickup. I think he's sort of come back to Korea and proven when he was over with Supermassive. I think he's proven that he is a top flight support player. I'm curious to see what he does now coming back into this region. The AD carry spot though is really, to me, going to be telling. So obviously it's going to be KT Rolster. Everyone's kind of putting themselves against SKT here, right? In terms of like how they line up. I think they can match up with Khan, Haru, Faker. I think that they can level that out there. I think Mata is going to go ahead and give them SKT an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy, while he is mechanically gifted, I don't think he has the best decision making. Mata, of course, is going to help with that. But I mean, if they can get a AD carry, someone like Kramer, possibly signing over to KT Rolster, I think they can be absolutely fantastic. Maybe pull Prey out of his semi-retirement. I think a move like that can really put them over the top and really make it a 2-horse race for who has the best roster in Korea. Obviously Griffin's still there, so I don't want to like ignore Griffin, but I think I need to see Griffin do it for more than a split to really take them seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there's definitely, that's the one move I'm waiting for.
I want to say that obviously this is still AD carry dependent.
Sure.
But I don't think the KT roster is going to have a great spring split.
Okay.
But I think they're going to come alive afterwards.
Too many moving pieces?
Too many moving pieces. They'll need some time to get used to it. They'll need some time to adjust. Snowflower still has room to grow. I think that's going to be the focus during the spring split. And then I think they're going to go off.
Do you think that's still the case if they get a top flight AD carry like Kramer or Pawn or Prey or something, someone like that?
I definitely think that's the case.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my bold prediction. KT roster, summer 2019. We in there.
All right. I'm with you. We'll see. But that's going to be it for this week. And we'll probably be back for any kind of other news and more, and probably a lot more once we get into the full swing of things in the season in January. But yeah, thank you, Kristine, for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening.